Hello everyone, I welcome you to my YouTube channel Professor Civil Mandal. Here I speak about civil engineering and you will find my various video lectures regarding various topics of civil engineering over here.
Second part of the video lesson regarding precipitation, and till now we had been reading about various topics like the introduction to precipitation, the different types of precipitation, the rainfall measurement, and the types of rain gauges which we had, recording or non-recording type gauges, and we also estimated the optimum number of rain gauges that we require for a particular basin or a catchment, and then we tried to estimate the missing rainfall data by two different methods. And now in this particular video lesson we will be starting about the calculation of average rainfall. So the calculation of average rainfall will be talked about in this part of the video, and we will be mainly going upon to three different methods, that is the arithmetic method, nextly the Thiessen polygon method, and finally we will have the isohetal method. So these are the three types of the rainfall calculation of average rainfall, and we are going to study this in this particular video lesson. So regarding the arithmetic mean, when the area of the basin is less than 500 km square, then only we are going to use this method of calculation through the arithmetic mean, and in this we actually do the average of the available rainfall data to us. So suppose there are four rain gauge stations A, B, C and D, and what we are going to do is that we are going to take the average of these four, just so like this. Here we have the total 21.2, and the average will be the 21.2 divided by 4, and that is equal to the 5.3 centimeter. So it's just a simple way of getting the average of all the rain gauge stations which we have in that particular area, provided that the catchment area shall be less than 500 km square. So this was all about the arithmetic mean method of calculation of average rainfall. Next we move on to the Thiessen polygon method, and these are used for areas between 500 and 5000 km square. So the catchments which fall in this range between the 500 and 5000 km square, we are going to use the Thiessen polygon method. And in the Thiessen polygon method, suppose we have this catchment just shown in the diagram, and I think you will be confused by seeing all those lines, so it's not the big matter. So just let's read about the method so that we get the idea of how to do it. So let there be rain gauging station A, B, C, D and E and F. So we have 6 rain gauging stations starting from A to F. We have 6 rain gauge stations, you can see in the figure, and these 6 rain gauge stations are there, and it is assumed that each of the station has its own domain in the total area. While finding out the average value of rainfall, it is very essential to divide the total basin area in such a way that each station enclosed in a particular area represents that area in true sense. So what we are going to do to find out the average value, we are going to divide this total catchment into some equal halves or equal areas. So how are we going to do that one? That is, the domain of each rain gauge station can be marked as now mentioned here. Join all the stations of each adjacent stations by dotted lines so as to form a system of triangles. Rain gauging stations form vertices of the triangles. So what we are going to do, just see in the figure, as suppose this one is the catchment, and we have A, B, C, D, E and F as the 6 rain gauge stations. So we are going to first divide it as sub catchments somehow like this, giving some quadrilateral shape or some quadrilateral shape, and then we are going to connect them by some dotted lines, thus forming a network of triangles. So as you can see, amongst all these rain gauges, the dotted lines which are there are having a triangular networks. You can see it over here. These are having some triangular networks. So now next, what we are going to do by making such triangles, remarkable thing is that one polygon encloses one rain gauge station each, and see, we are getting one rain gauge station in each polygon. So the division is made in such a way that each polygon must have one rain gauge station. First thing, you divide the catchment in such a way that all the rain gauge stations are falling in one polygon each, and you may call it that each polygon is one sub catchment. And also you can do that, then what you can do, that you just connect those rain gauges by some dotted lines, and by joining them with the dotted lines, you will see that the dotted lines form some triangular network. And this is the first two important steps that we are going to do for this Thyssen polygon method. Next is each polygon is the domain of each rain gauging station which is enclosed in it. Yeah, that's for sure. So each domain, the rain gauging station is the domain of that particular polygon, and the justification for it can be now given. And each form line is perpendicular bisector of the line joining two stations. So the line joining two stations are the perpendicular bisectors of each. You can see the figure, you can get the idea. See, these are forming some perpendicular bisectors. So each form line is the perpendicular bisector of the line joining two stations. So the form lines are the perpendicular bisectors of the line joining two stations. Suppose E and F are joined by this dotted line. So this form line is the perpendicular bisector of this thing. You can see it again. E and F are joined by this dotted line, and this form line is the perpendicular bisector of this particular line. So any point on which the line will be equidistant from both the stations, so you can say that the point will be equidistant from both the stations, and if we go slightly this or that side of the bisector, our position will distinctly fall in the domain of the station to which our position is now nearer. Okay, so that's much more of the theory. Now the values can be tabulated in the figure somehow like this. So what we are going to do, that we are going to write the stations like this. Nextly, what we are going to do, we are going to write the rainfall over here and the area of the polygon that is being formed in square kilometer. So in the question, just make sure that the area of the polygon is given to you, and then only you can go through the Thyssen polygon method. And in most of the question you will be seeing that the polygons are actually made. What we are going to do, we are just going to join the dotted lines, and then we are going to get the wetted depth of the rainfall by this. That is this is the fourth column, and this will be the multiplication of the rainfall, and the third column, that is the area of the polygon. So suppose for the station A, if I am going to find the weighted depth of rainfall, so I am just going to multiply 5.6 and A with it, and so it will be 5.6 multiplied by A. So this is the way you form the table. And to explain the procedure of the column, just read the procedure once. That is, shows the various rain gauge stations of the column, the amount of rainfall at each station. You can see the various rain gauge stations are mentioned. Various rain gauge stations are mentioned on the left hand side, first column, and in the second column you can see all the rainfall data of the particular gauge stations are there. They are mentioned simultaneously with respect to each other, and it also gives the area of each polygonal domain of the station and column. So it gives the area of the polygonal domain and the station. So in the third column you can see the area of the polygon is given to us. And finally it gives the weighted depth of rainfall, which is obtained by multiplying values in columns 2 and 3. So the weighted depth will be multiplied by the value in column 2 and column 3. So the sum of column 3 will be the total area of the basin. So if you just sum up this thing, you can say that it is the total area of the basin. Just refer to the figure once more. So if you just sum the area of this particular polygons, the 6 polygons which we have, you can say that this gives us the area of the whole catchment or whole basin. So the mean depth of the rainfall is given by this, that you will multiply you'll add the values of column 4 and divide it with the total value of column 3. Third is the isohedral method. And before knowing about the isohedral method, let's just get the idea of what are isoheights. So isoheights are the line joining the points of equal depth of precipitation. Suppose I have a map like this, or suppose I will make it over here. I have a map like this, and I am recording the precipitation of this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, this point. So I have recorded the precipitation at n number of places in a particular catchment, and what I am seeing that the precipitation of this station and this station are same for a particular day or for a particular month. Suppose it is for a particular day, that in this station, in this station and in this station we have suppose 30 millimeter of rainfall for that particular day, and all the 3 stations recorded the same value. So what I can do, that I can draw a line joining these 3 stations, and I can call it as isoheight, as we know that isoheights are the line joining the points of equal depth of precipitation. So as we have seen that in the 3 stations, the depth of precipitation was, we said that suppose it was 30 for both of the 3. So all the 3. So what we did, we just joined the 3 stations by one single line, and we are calling that this line is known as the isoheight. And it is also said that any point on that particular line will be having that particular amount of precipitation only. So if that isoheight is for 30 mm of rainfall, then we might have made that isoheight by joining 3 stations, but the theory says that if we choose any arbitrary point on that particular isoheight, it is going to give us the value of 30 mm only. So that's why it is known as an isoheight. If it is not giving isoheight at a particular point, the line is going to break over there. So it must be necessary that the particular line should be giving 30 mm of rainfall, just as we have assumed that value, that 30 mm of rainfall should be given in whole of that particular line. So in a particular isoheight, we have equal rainfall values at any arbitrary point. So the properties of isoheights are also similar to that of the contours. As you know, there are various properties of contours, like they should be somehow closed lines. Contour have equal, a contour line represents one particular altitude only, and similarly isoheights are also somewhat like that. The lines, though I made a diagram, but this line is not a complete one. So what I'm going to do, that these are just like the contours, as you can see in the second diagram, which is over here. Yeah, this one. Just a second. Yeah, this one. So this one shows the isoheights which we are having over here. This one is for 9.4 centimeter, 9 centimeter, 8, 7, 6. So this 9, 8, 7, 6, 9.4, these are the depths of rainfall of that particular places. So that particular places have equal depth of rainfall, so we are making one line. Suppose this is for 9 centimeter of rainfall. So this whole of the line, any point on the line, any place on that line, falling on that line, will have 9 centimeter of rainfall only. So you can see that just by the figure you can say that the properties of isoheights are quite similar to that which we have read about contours in the surveying subject. For example, 2 different isoheights do not cross each other, just like contours. 2 different isoheights do not ever cross each other. You can see in the figure, they are all separate lines, separate circles or separate closed figures, and they are actually not overlapping each other. You can see it in the figure. Nextly, the isoheights of higher value shows the places which receive more rainfall. So isoheights of higher value shows the place which receives more rainfall. So just as we knew that for contour of higher values shows a higher land, a higher place or a higher altitude, so it is somewhat like that only. Each isoheight must close on itself or must go out of the area under consideration. So each isoheight must close itself, must be a closed figure, and must go out of the area under consideration. So even if it goes out of the area under consideration, the isoheight should always be a straight line. And now the isoheightal methods are for basins having an area greater than 5000 km square. So as we learned that less than 500 km square of area, if a basin has such area whose area is actually less than 500 km square, we are going to use the arithmetic mean method. If it is between 500 and 5000 km square, we are going to use the Thiessen polygon method, and if it is greater than 5000 km square, we are going to use this method, that is the isoheightal method. It is designed as per accuracy. So for 500 km square, up to 500 km square, arithmetic mean method will be sufficient. We need not to make our calculations very clumsy or very difficult. That arithmetic method, simple arithmetic average, will give us the correct value for the basins which have areas less than 500 km square. For 500 to 5000, Thiessen polygon are the optimum one. This give us the right values, and for greater than 5000 km square, we have this isoheightal method. So for a given, isoheights are drawn by joining the points of equal depth of precipitation, as you know, we have shown in the figure, here. Nextly, the points of equal depth of precipitation can be computed by the method of estimation from rainfall values of rain gauging stations. So the points of equal depth of precipitation can be computed by the method of estimation from the rainfall values of rain gauging station. And in the figure, the dotted line shows the isoheights. As you can see in this particular figure, dotted lines show the isoheights, and the outermost firm line is the basin boundary, and the outermost bold line, you can see the firm line, this is our basin boundary. So suppose if you are saying that this is a particular basin, suppose it is the Ganga basin or the Brahmaputra basin, so or the Indus basin, so you can say that this is that particular basin only. This firm line represents that particular basin area only, and we are going to make the isoheights within it only. The interval of isoheights is 1 centimeter. Just like in contours, we have some fixed intervals. So here the fixed interval is 1 centimeter. You can see 9, 8, 7, 6. So the fixed interval is 1 centimeter between any two isoheights. The highest spot rainfall value in area is 9.4 centimeter. You can see here we have 9.4 centimeter of rainfall. And now the areas between two successive isoheights can be found by using a graph paper or a planimeter. So the areas can be found by using any graph paper or any planimeter. The rest of the procedure of finding out is given in the table. You can see the isoheightal interval, suppose 9.4 to 9 or 9 to 8, or I have just mentioned the isoheightal intervals like this. Suppose you can see the intervals like this, that is 9.4 to 9 over here, 9 to 8 over here, 8 to 7, 7 to 6, and then 6 to the boundary. So these are the different isoheightal intervals that are mentioned over here in the first column. In the second one, we give the mean of that mean of that interval. So suppose 9.4 and 9 are the two boundaries, that is 9.4 is the innermost and 9 is the outer boundary. So the mean will be 9.4 plus 9 divided by 2, and that is equal to 9.2. Just the same way we calculate mean of any two things. Similarly, between 9 and 8, the mean will be 8.5. So the second column will be dedicated to writing the mean of that particular class interval which we are selecting. And then the area of the two successive isoheights will be given by this. So the area between the two successive isoheights, suppose I am taking this area as A, and this area between these two will be referred as B, C, D, E, F, and that areas are just between the two isoheights only. Okay, and so we are giving that area between two successive isoheights, and we are dedicating the third column to it. And in the fourth column we are writing the mean multiplied by the area, and that will be the simple multiplication of the value in column 2 to that of the value in column 3. That is, we have 9.2 multiplied by A for the first observation, and similarly we have the other 5. And what we are going to do at the end of the day, we are going to do the summation of the values in column 3 and do the summation of the values in column 4. So this way the mean depth of rainfall will be given by the summation of column number 4 values divided by the summation of column number 3 values. So the summation of column number 3 is simple addition of A, B, C, D, E, and it gives us the total area of the basin, whereas the mean depth of the rainfall will be somehow given like this. So next we have this particular question. A drainage basin has a catchment area of 626 km square. So in the question it is given 626 km square. So just try to guess what should be the type of method that must be suitable for this particular basin. Is it arithmetic mean? Is it the Thyssen-Polygon method, or is it the isoheightal method? Give it a guess, because it is 626, right? It is between 500 and 5000. Till 500 we knew that arithmetic mean method was the best possible method. That is enough for us to give the correct value. For the areas which are greater than 5000, for the catchments which have area greater than 5000, we used the isoheightal method. That isoheightal method is the perfect method, and so that ones which have areas between 500 and 5000, we say that the Thyssen-Polygon method is the perfect method. So for this question the perfect method is going to be the Thyssen-Polygon method only. So let's read the rest of the part of the question. There are in all 11 rain gauging stations, of which 6 are within the catchment and 5 are in the vicinity. So we are given 11 gauging stations where 6 are within the catchment and 5 are beyond the catchment, that is beyond the boundary of the catchment. So the point rainfall observed between a particular storm at various stations is given in the figure. So just refer this figure A. Let's just not refer the figure B and C, because this will be used for our calculation of Thyssen-Polygon and the isoheightal methods. Let's just refer this figure A, because this shall be the figure, only possible figure that will be given to us in the question. Of course these ones will not be given in the question at first. Yeah, if the question is mentioned that if you are going to calculate using the Thyssen-Polygon method, then you must refer to the second figure, and for the isoheightal method the third figure shall be the reference. So just see the first figure only. You can see there are 6 values inside the catchment, 6 values inside the catchment and 5 values outside the catchment. Actually just read the question. 5 are in the vicinity but outside the catchment. So it means that 5 are nearer to the catchment but they are actually outside the catchment. So if they are very far from the catchment, of course the rainfall values of that particular gauging station will have no meaning for that particular catchment, right? Because if I am in somehow in Delhi, okay, but there is some gauging station, suppose in Ghaziabad or Lucknow or Kolkata, somewhere like that. So of course that gauging station is not going to put any effect on this, that our one in Delhi, right? Because Delhi is very far from these places, and whatever rainfall is going to be occurring there will not be same in Delhi. But suppose a place which is nearer to Delhi, like Faridabad or something like Chandigarh, these are quite close to Delhi, right? So the rainfall in these places can have some effect on the catchment of Delhi, right? So we are going then we are going to consider those rain gauging stations which are actually nearer to the catchment. Of course they are outside Delhi, but they are actually nearer to Delhi, so we are actually considering that one. Just one more thing, there is no value such as 1.46, I guess. Yeah, there is no value such as 1.46. This might be some kind of printing mistake. So also in the next two tables we are given in the first table we are given the area of the polygon, and this table will be used for the Thiessen polygon method, and in the second table we are given the area enclosed by the isoids, and this table will be used for the isohedral method. You can do one thing, you can pause the video at this particular moment, and if you need to note the values, you can write the values in the particular table. You can see the question. I'll be scrolling over the question once. You can pause wherever you want to and then note the question in your paper or notebook. This is the question, this is the figure. First one is the general figure. Arithmetic mean method can be used by this figure. Second one is the Thiessen polygon method figure, and third one is the isohedral method figure. And next we have these two tables for Thiessen polygon method and isohedral method. The last part of the question says that calculate the average depth of precipitation over the catchment by arithmetic mean, Thiessen polygon and isohedral method, and compare the results. So we will know that the Thiessen polygon methods gives us the perfect answer for the catchments having area within 500 to 5000 km square, but in the question we are asked to find the values of all the three and we have to compare the results. Okay, so for step 1, the arithmetic average method, so we must refer figure A for this. So which is the figure A? This one. This is the figure A, 6 stations inside the catchment and 5 stations outside the catchment. And now the average depth of precipitation is simply given by adding the gauging values which are inside the catchment divided by 6. So we are going to add these 6 values, and this will give us and dividing it with 6 will give us the arithmetic average method answer. That is 3.09 centimeter. You can use your calculator or you can do the manual calculation. Next is the Thiessen polygon method, and for this you need to refer figure B, which is this one. So just try to observe one thing. They have again included the catchments which are inside the basin, and you see that each polygon represents one gauging station only. So one gauging station is the domain of one polygon only. Just see the figure carefully, you will get the idea. Next, in the second step, we need to join them with dotted lines like this, and we are also given the areas for each polygon like this. This will be 0.65, make the correction. This will be 0.65. and for each rainfall values the area of the polygon is given to us over here. So what we are gonna do, we are gonna tabulate it somewhat like this. Here are the observed precipitation values. Now just note one thing, that in this particular figure, see that of course the stations which are inside the catchment will be considered, but the stations which are outside the catchment, you can see that 1.54 is very close, 0.65 is also very close, right? See, 0.65 is close and 1.54 is very close as compared to 1.75, 1.95, 2.82, right? So what we are going to do, we are not going to consider the values of the rainfall that are occurring on these three particular stations. Okay, and that is the reason the values are not given in the question for the remaining stations. So this is one clue to us actually to say that these values are not necessary, or this rain gauging station will not have any effect for the mean rainfall of that particular catchment. So we need not to consider the values. So we can just proceed by the values that are given to the question. So this way you can just have an idea that the question will tell you as to consider which gauging station and not to consider which gauging station. Okay, so just as in this question, we are just not given the values of other three gauging stations. So that implies that those gauging stations are not going to put any impact on the average value. So we can proceed with the remaining 8 values which we have. We have the area of the polygon, we know the station. So simply let's write the observed precipitation in the first column, polygon area in the second column, percent of the total area. So what you need to do, that you just need to calculate the total area first by considering each of the polygon area, and next you need to calculate the percentage out of which the total area it is. Suppose the total area is coming out somewhat like this, and you have to calculate what percentage of the total area is the area of this particular catchment. Suppose for this catchment, for the first catchment where the rainfall is 0.65 centimeter, the percentage of area is 1% because it is 7 and value is 7 and the total area is 626, so it is around 1%. Next is, so we can do it for the other catchments also, that we need to get the percent of the total area of the catchment in kilometer square. And then what we are going to do, that we are going to make the weighted precipitation column by doing this, that we will multiply the column 1 value with the column 3 value and we will get this value. So we have the weighted precipitation value, we have the total area value. So we will make the summation of both this, and what we are going to do, we are going to get the average by dividing it, and it will be the value will be around 2.84 centimeter. Remember one thing, our catchment had area 626 kilometer square. So we can say that this value can be the right answer. Okay, just before that let's solve the other part also, that is the isohydral method. So for isohydral method you need to refer figure C, that is this one. You need to refer this figure and also this particular table, area enclosed within each isoheight. So let's formulate our table, that is the isoheight interval is given to us 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the area enclosed is also given. When we will get the net area, so the net area is one kind of, you can say it is just by the cumulative subtraction, you can do it. Just the way we used to do the cumulative addition. By cumulative subtraction we can get the net area. Suppose 13 is for the first interval, that is for 5 centimeter interval. For 4 centimeter interval it is 90. So the net area will be 90 minus 13, that is 77. Similarly, for the third 3 centimeter isohedral gap, it will be 206 kilometer square will be the area enclosed, and therefore the net area will be 206.7 multiplied by 207 minus 77 plus 13, that is 206 minus 90 will give us the 116. That is the net area of interval 3 centimeter. For interval 2 centimeter, the area enclosed is 402 kilometer square. So area enclosed is also given somehow like this only in cumulative form. So we will just get the answer likewise only, and you can do the cumulative subtraction and get the values somehow like this. Next, this gives us the area of each particular spots that are enclosed by those isohyets. And next is the average precipitation. Average precipitation, we know average will be the average of these two, that is 5 and 4. The average for first one you consider 5, for the next one that is 5 and 4 you can get 4.5, for the next that is 4 and 3 you get 3.5, for the next 3 and 2 you get 2.5. So similarly 1.5 and 0.8 is the last value. So now we will multiply column 3 with column 4 so that we get the total volume of precipitation, and also we have the total area, and on dividing it we will get the average depth of precipitation. So the average depth of precipitation in the three methods comes out to be like this, that is 3.09, 2.84, 2.59. So we have compared these three values, right? Okay, but we know that the perfect answer will be 2.84 only, because for catchments within 500 km square and 5000 km square area we use the Thyssen-Polygon method. So this is how we get the value of a particular catchment. If the catchment had an area greater than suppose 5000 km square, suppose something around 6000, 7000 km square, then of course the isohedral method would give us the correct answer. And similarly, if it was below 500, we cannot say that the other two methods will not give us the correct answer, only the arithmetic method will give us the correct answer. But actually the values won't vary so much, so we can just get it through the arithmetic method only, and also the catchment is very small in that case, so arithmetic method will be sufficient enough to get the value. So this was all about the precipitation, and also I will say that if you have not read the precipitation's first part, also please refer to that one, because that one is the first part of the video and you must refer to that part first. And even if you have ignored, you can later on refer to it, because that is also important and that part comes under precipitation only. Okay, so the link will be given in the description. Also you will get the video in the end screen also, and for the notes you can refer to the link which is given in the description. And also please subscribe to my channel if you are new, and also like and share my videos. Thank you.